Picture this. Your wife recently died from a terminal illness. The silence rings in your ears when you wake up, eat, sleep. You grieve alone. Then a dog arrives at your doorstep. Hey, pooches. Aw, look at the little doggy. It's from your wife. Now you see hope and a chance to get through this tough time. Unfortunately, that doesn't go to plan. Now you're gonna get who did this to you and kill any and everyone in your way. Your rampage is fueled by aching grief and deep seeking for revenge. Whatever's about to happen in the next few days, or few movies, awakens the beast you thought you left behind years ago. I'm talking about John Wick, by the way, not you. His style is as loaded as his character, a fighting style I've broken into two parts, with everything beginning and carried out by a quest for retribution. He was retired, happy. He left that world behind him. Nothing that's about to happen would without this defining moment. Killing his dog is the plot of these movies, and is constantly mentioned by the characters. Just a fucking dog. Just a dog.
You shot my dog.
I get it. So these action scenes are fueled by a blinding rage, trying to fill a bottomless pit, leading to him returning to his old ways, to bring back the Baba Yaga. Vigo, the father of the dude who killed his dog, sends as many people as possible to John Wick's house. He's ready for this, duh, and when the intruders get near, he takes action. Hold on, 1 second. I just want to mention something. With John being referred to as the boogeyman, the only way I can think to describe how he's set up to the audience is as more of an overpowering force than a human. He's spoken about like a different breed entirely. And this scene right here captures this perfectly. Vigo calls John at an effort to settle things before they get too ugly. In the entire call, John says nothing. And when asked what John said on the call, Vigo says,
"Enough."
The exposition they're giving for John Wick is insane, and they pay it off perfectly. Dang, alright, that was 4 seconds and already 4 people are dead. Okay, notice how every single bullet he fires has a purpose? Each bullet is clearly choreographed precisely to bring the realism in incapacitating or killing his opponents. The depth they go for these action scenes in these movies is insane. And see how quickly he sends 4 people to paradise? Imagine being this guy on the ground seeing all of this go down and then pop, blackness. And he does this to everyone. It gets to a point of how many people has this dude killed? Now I say all this to bring me to the first part of Wick's expertise. Guns. The gun techniques used in these movies are amazing. Guns are a core part of this franchise. I mean, come on, you know this classic suit-up scene. I need something robust, precise. The shooting, disarming, cool ways he reloads. He's super quick and his aim is unbelievable. Think about how much focus and training it takes to have this kind of accuracy. Yes, I know it's a movie. I'm aware it's not real, but if you think having similar aim like this in real life, or anything I've touched on in previous videos, isn't possible, it is. But I'll get into that later. Due to his supreme aim, the main body part he aims for is the head. He's a hitman, an assassin. His job is death. If he's not close range, he's immediately aiming for the head. Like I said earlier, his main objective is lights out. Roll credits. The Equalizer gave at least a little time usually. The only reason you aren't dead when you see John Wick is because you either take care of his dog or you're just as skilled as him, which these intruders are not, hence all of them dead by the end of this scene. So John jumps down the stairwell, kills a few more dudes, yada yada yada, day in the life. He gets up against a wall to reload, and someone sneaks up on him. They grab onto his hands to direct the gun away. Now this is where John uses his elite skills in hand-to-hand combat. Instead of fighting this forward pressure, John uses the momentum, pulling him and swinging him into this bookshelf. This is a big part of Wick's style, which is using his attacker's momentum against them. But wait, it gets better. He reaches his arm underneath and launches this guy over his shoulder, slamming him on the ground. Now pay attention to that, because you'll never see a move like this again in these films. Psych, in every scene, John throws someone, takes him to the ground, or overall performs a takedown. He does it in literally every single fight scene. Try to find a fight scene where John doesn't do that. This is gonna be you next time you watch John Wick with somebody. Wait, he's about to take him to the ground. Wait, hold on, watch. Are you watching? Wait, right here, oh, no, hold on. Yes, right there, I knew it, I told you. His type of takedowns come from 2 main martial arts, Jiu-Jitsu and Judo. From what I understand from the 2 arts, Judo takedowns or throws are more explosive, looking to end the fight at the takedown, whereas jiu-jitsu tends to be more of a transition into ground control, and these are typically more conservative than judo. John does both, but in terms of fun, exciting moves to see in action, he's more explosive with his throws. But with jiu-jitsu, he tends to take it to the ground a lot, especially if his opponent is more skilled, where it'd be harder for John to throw them so hard or so far. So after we saw the first takedown of many, Wick notices someone else and pops their brain before coming back to his attacker and doing the same. This is something he also typically does, is he combines hand-to-hand combat with his firearms usage, using a hybrid style called gun fu, which is really just a movie term, by the way, originating from Hong Kong director John Woo. If you've done so much as a Google search about John Wick, you probably already know this. The techniques in these movies are centered around this gun fu. I like a lot of the scenes where he's dealing with someone and has to kill someone else coming to join the action while simultaneously dealing with his original attacker. Each time it's done on screen, it looks super dope. There's one specific style John uses in close proximity with his gun that I've noticed multiple times. He usually pulls it in contact distance, where the gun is touching his target. He shoots 2 to the chest and 1 to the head. It's not a double tap, it's a triple tap, or some amount of shots to the chest before a shot to the head. I guess he does this because as a hitman, he leaves nothing to chance. I mean, it has its place, I guess, since he had to shoot this sumo wrestler multiple times in the body and head before he actually died. Personally though, I don't really get it. Seems wasteful if you're going to shoot the head anyway. When I first watched John Wick, I thought, how does he not reload more?
Someone's not counting.
It could also be to stun his opponent in the chest so they wouldn't block the shot when he goes for the head, since he's in such close distance. I'm not sure, but John does this a lot. It's a core part of his style with Gun Fu. Now Wick shoots the next guy, runs at him and grapples him with his legs. This is a super cool move. I was blown away when I first saw this. It's very fluid. And at the peak of his jump, he shoots the guy through the bookshelf and rolls into the momentum to end up on top. He kills them both, and then he moves on. So this move, super sick, really advanced. But could you do it? If you watch my first 2 videos, you may think I would say yes. And I want to touch on it because in my past 2 videos, I've argued that watching action movies is great for studying and teaching yourself self-defense techniques. Right, so I saw John Wick do this, therefore I can do it too. I understand the controversy. I'm not saying you can watch a movie and right after say, I can do everything in this movie. Though, there's many moves used in these movies that are simple and doable by anyone. You don't need to be in shape or train really hard to understand basic self-defense. Does training help? Duh. But the basics are the basics. Joint locks, weak points, painful areas. It doesn't take a triple baconator takedown to understand simple disarmament and leverage. I'm not saying these moves aren't effective. Quite the opposite, actually. But mastering your mind is arguably more important than physical fitness. Studying the moves is not about the fact that these characters win every fight, it's breaking down what did they do in each part of the fight, and then seeing how you would be able to use that in real life. Let me give you an example from my first video of the thought process through this analysis. Okay, so Bourne took down 3 guys in 5 seconds. Let's look deeper. Okay, he uses a throat chop on the first guy. That's smart. To end a fight immediately, use a throat chop. It's very effective and doesn't do that much damage. Okay, next move, a wrist lock. Alright, well he does it behind his back, that's pretty hard to do. But twisting the wrist this way does immediately get someone to submit. Okay, that's good to know. Alright, he pulls in the next guy and uses that momentum to slam him on the ground. That looks like it takes a lot of strength, but I could use his momentum with maybe a more basic move, like planting my foot and him tripping over it, kinda like how John Wick does right here. And then I'd be able to take him down. Okay, that makes sense. Everything can be broken down into the basics. And not every scene is going to work in real life. Look, Robert disarms this gun, but if you watch the slow-mo, the guy kinda just lets go. Alright, but Robert twisted the gun towards grip being the weakest. That's something to think about. For this though, there's a lot of people in the room, the gun is very likely to go off. I wouldn't pull a move like this in this scenario, but it's worth slowing down and looking at closer. Now, just to understand where I'm coming from, if you'd like, you could do a little research, watch a YouTube video here and there, understand basic hand-to-hand, gun and knife self-defense, and then you'll realize it's fun to watch action movies with fight scenes. Why? Because choreographers, especially if they're really good, make realistic fight scenes, and they use real moves. So you can watch a movie and now that you have a certain eye for self-defense, you can see a move like this and be like, damn, rewind that. Huh, I never thought of that. And then you could save that in your brain. The more research you do, the more knowledge you attain, the more movies you see, the more confident you'll be in your knowledge of self-defense, and thus the more capable you are to do so in real life. At the very least, if there's any takeaway from what I'm saying, understanding self-defense makes action movies more enjoyable to watch. So, let me show you a move I like that comes up in this John Wick scene. After this move, he shoots his last 2 bullets and flings the magazine out of the gun, stops the intruder's arm, hitting him in the face and the nuts before pulling him down and throwing him through the window, finishes reloading, and moves on. Next person comes, and while struggling with him, he shoots another intruder, just like how I was talking about before, flings the gun out of his hand and throws him onto the counter, using his hips to create more power, giving the intruder some airtime. Then, here's the good part. The next guy comes and John takes his wrist at arm's length and rotates his whole body to lock it up and fling him over his shoulder. By the way, that's 4 times John's performed some kind of takedown in the past 35 seconds. But this is the move I'm talking about. Grabbing the wrist, rotating the entire body inward to lock up the arm. If John was just trying to subdue him, he could just keep applying force on the locked joint. But I guess this works too. But sometimes he's actually got himself in a good position over his opponent and decides to throw him, basically releasing his control, so he has to regain it. It happens here. This guy goes for a knife while John kills the guy on the counter, and this creates another really hard struggle when it could have just been handled when John had his arm locked up. But for him to defend himself against a knife, it ends up in this situation. John holding the guy's arm while the guy's trying to stab him. Typical movie knife standoff. Something these movies always show is knife defense, and the knife never even gets a scratch on anyone until the very end. If you're defending yourself from a knife, first plan of action, run. But if that's not possible, or you're just feeling yourself that day, just know you're going to get cut. That's okay, but attempting to disarm a knife and expecting to walk away with no scratches is highly unlikely. In this sequence, control of the knife changes a few times. The intruder's swinging it, then John's got his arm. It's a really slow burn until the very end when he finally gets killed. Usually though, if it's this situation, which is pretty common, there's many ways to disarm the knife. Bending back the thumb to open the grip, swiping down on the knife towards where grip is the weakest. Yes, there's other ways, but this intruder and John Wick are highly skilled. So if you're in this situation, just make your peace with God. After John killed the last guy, the police come to his door.
Evening, John.
Evening, Jimmy.
Hey, Ron. Hey, Billy.
And he just lets him go, because of course, you know, the police know about the boogeyman, they're not going to intervene. This first fight scene is really great though, especially the last part. This scene was just the first though. John Wick is known as being a one-man army, able to take down dozens of people coming at him. There's like a million scenes of him doing this, but my favorite one is at the beginning of the second movie when he's coming to get his car. He already got a new dog at the end of the last movie, and now he needs to get his stolen car. There's an exposition dump about the Baba Yaga from this guy's uncle.
It's not just a car. It is John Wick's car.
John very sneakily finds his car and just hops in. He starts it, and people hear him, so he puts it in overdrive. 4 cars ding him up a little, but he keeps going. There's not a lot of car scenes in this franchise, but they're pretty cool nonetheless. Nowhere near as cool as the fighting, but I like them personally. Like here, he spins around to hit this guy into a pole. That was pretty sick. Anyway, John finally gets out of the car by his own free will, and then his attackers run over. There's one specific thing John really emphasizes this whole fight. This technique is so advanced, I don't know how the choreographers came up with it. To stay on top of multiple guys trying to kill him, John decides to go with crushing their manhood. He also performs a takedown on every opponent in this matchup, so I'll leave a counter for both until the end of the scene. So he starts off hot, just boom, and then an absolute crusher. A clap to the ears and right back to Jewel Osco. To finish it off, he gives a throat chop. It's safe to say this guy got his bell rung. In my opinion, the throat chop would have been enough. The rest was just cruel. First guy wants seconds, but another blow to the jugular puts him down. This guy wants more too, who knows why, and John flings him like a ragdoll and sits him down. He gets hit by a car, and the amount of times they've scripted Wick to be completely ran through and he just gets up is a bit much. First guy comes, and I'd like you to guess real quick John's first move. Correct. He deals with the next guy, look at the first guy, takes him down, and John, dude, get the equalizer in here. He's literally on the ground. This is not necessary. Alright, next guy pulls up, and John tries to whip him down by his collar before throwing him down for a second time. By the way, this move is dumb. I don't know the name of it. A whip down? A double collar drag? Unless you're wearing a suit or a gi, the shirt's just gonna rip if you try to whip someone down like this. John kicks at his shins, which is very painful by the way, and takes him down for a third time. very smoothly this time. A car comes at him and he narrowly dodges it. He comes out and gets his leg caught and tossed. Juggernaut runs at John and flips him down. That's 4 jewels shattered and 6 takedowns, including the one from the Juggernaut, in just this little bit of fighting. He walks mysteriously before having his legs taken out by bullets. John's had the gun on him this entire time. He just wanted to bust a couple balls. He declares peace with the uncle, Mia, and dips in his car that's somehow still running. So, kicking in the balls. Honestly, not the best practice in real life. Yeah, it'll put a guy down for a few seconds, but really it's just going to make them angrier. And if you're surrounded, it's going to make everyone else angrier too. And if you care about it, it's a pretty dirty move to do. It's more of a last resort kind of thing. And if you've seen my other videos, you know I like the throat chop. Puts him down for a while, it's quick, and escape is much easier. Despite the fallen soldiers, this was a great scene. You may have noticed in these first 2 scenes, there's not a lot of cuts in the action. Something really great about these John Wick movies is there's a lot of long, uninterrupted fighting scenes. Don't get me wrong, The Equalizer and Bourne are super cool to watch, but John Wick is special because these fights are long and don't have quick flashy cuts from angle to angle. Like this part right here, there's no cuts at all. How long do you think it took to finally get this shot right? Now imagine doing that for several fight scenes over the course of 4 movies. How does Keanu Reeves have to train for that? Well, he worked pretty hard with choreographers before they would start the next movie. Keanu worked for months and months training for every John Wick movie. And with each movie getting crazier and crazier action scenes, and Keanu Reeves getting older and older, the intensity of his training has grown a lot for him to keep up. To portray John Wick, he had to literally become him, which is why the moves done in these movies are so advanced. Look at this clip of Keanu in gun training. The title of this video is No Misses. Does this look familiar? The reason I'm mentioning all of this, no cuts in the scenes, Keanu's training, is because all of it beautifully comes together in this amazing fight scene against this guy. This scene is from John Wick 2. In the first John Wick, he's the attacker. He's the one on the hunt. In John 2, a major portion of it, he's the one being hunted down. This is because he had to kill this lady, and her security guard, this dude, is now avenging her. So after John killed who knows how many people in the catacombs, this guy enters the scene like this. They shoot at each other a little bit before John sweeps over the car for this tackle. They get up and John disarms him by pulling the arm as far away from his opponent's body as possible, then rotating the gun out of his grip. See, he doesn't pull it out directly this way. He grabs around the hammer and flings it this way, easily knocking it out of his hands. There's 3 fingers gripping the gun this way, and only the thumb holding it this way, which is why that is where it grips the weakest. That's the direction to disarm. Couple punches thrown, and then a takedown. John backhands him and starts running away. And this next part's one of the best because it takes away from the precise and hitman nature of these guys, and instead they just become animalistic, trying to do as much damage as possible to each other and basically killing themselves as they do. Like they are exhausted at this point and trying to do as much as possible to kill the other. Being that tired leads to drastic measures like this. Do you know how hard these steps are? Like their bones have to be broken, and they just keep going. He almost misses John here, which would have led to him flying down alone. Okay, they get back to brawling. He twists John's arm this way, but he probably could have twisted it further into a classic police arm lock. John catches the leg and knocks him down, but this guy uses that momentum to rotate it further, putting John down, and almost gets him into an arm bar. But John's bicep is clearly just too strong. Then the knife comes out, and Wick stops it like this. Do you know the precision and strength it takes to stop an arm as it's coming down at you with a knife? They do this all the time, multiple times in this fight. They flip around, and John pulls out his gun, which gets blocked by this guy's foot. This character knows how to use everything possible at his disposal. The director wanted to fight with someone that had as much skill as John Wick, and I'd say he's doing a pretty good job. He spins around on the ground and thrusts the knife down, and is blocked perfectly again. More struggling, more knifing. John gets thrown down, gets up, and finally swipes the knife out of his hand. I think if he swiped it more in this direction is when it actually would have taken the knife out. John gets flipped down again. He's honestly getting tossed in this fight. He reloads with the armpit of his leg, and he just gets thrown through a window instead. This guy's like, hey, no fighting on continental grounds. They settle down and decide to grab a drink. Gin, wasn't it? Yes, bourbon. Right. Not the best acting, I'll keep it frank. This scene was great though. It showed two skilled fighters going to the absolute limit of exhaustion, and was the best showcasing of raw, uncut stunt skills that these actors put months of work into perfecting. John tried to use his whole arsenal though. Takedowns, he tried to use his gun. He actually finally got it pointed at his head, but too late. They're now on continental grounds. John Wick has so many other fight scenes. I may analyze more in the future, especially if the 5th movie comes out, and apparently even a 6th one. But Keanu Reeves is 61 years old, so glad to see a bunch of people that share the same passion for action movies as I do. I've read all the comments of the Equalizer and Boar videos, and I appreciate it dearly. New video coming soon. Peace.